Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Not matchy-matchy on purpose today, but totally matchy-matchy because it's fun to matchy-matchy.
Yeah, so I ran down...
These are our UK colors.
Yeah, let's go with that. You guys know we have a little farm, right? And we had two piglets that needed, our last two piglets that we needed to sell.
They're gilts, which means they're females, and they were a good size. We had literally, they're two sisters, we had named them Patty and Fatty Patty.
Right.
Because Fatty Patty was literally like this big around. Yeah. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, so I love them so much. But I needed to get them off of their one mom because I didn't have a place to put them away from their mom. They were nursing
her to death.
Yeah, so I love them. I love them. I love them. The little one we named Patty, and whenever I go in there, they come and they lay on my feet. So I got a call 2 days ago from a woman who said that she wanted them. She had been on vacation, and she wanted them now, and she wanted them Sunday, and she wanted to come 11:30. And so here we are. And I jumped in the shower and...
No, first of all, you mowed the grass, and then you cleaned the pool, and then you jumped in the shower.
And now I'm here with you guys, and I know what I want to talk to you about.
But can we do something really quickly before we go into that? Adeline is here.
Adeline, yes.
We're just going to go straight over to this. Adeline did something yesterday.
Are you going to show them?
Oh, yeah. We're showing them. Gosh. Adeline knows exactly where this is going. My mom... Go ahead. I'm going to bring up some of these stories. You do that. Lionel Nation. Okay. He
plays all the time.
He goes live a lot, and my mom is always watching Lionel. And I will tell you something. I'll let you in on a little secret. Occasionally, when my mom misses a show live, she's not here with us today. If Lionel, when she has the opportunity to sit down and watch something, as soon as she gets a chance, you would think that she would sit down and watch her favorite YouTube channel, Resistance Chicks, her daughters, which she loves to do, by the way. No, if Lionel is going live, Resistance Chicks is going to wait, and she watches Lionel here.
No, go ahead.
No, I want you to listen.
I know.
Leah doesn't want to listen. She's face palming. Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar with the Super Chat, the Super Chat is something, let me switch over here to Lionel, where you can pay, and then your comment shows up. And I don't know that there's a law or a rule that Lionel even has to read these comments, but he does. No. And so the first one that she did, apparently my mom says she did this 4 times. Adeline, God bless you.
Ostrovecki.
Let's see if I can
Thank you,
a little bit louder. Adeline
Marie Robinson says, please give a shout out to Mass Faith 3 Resistance Chicks Sunday at 1 p.m. I will. How about this?
He does that all the time.
And you can remind me of Manana as well. Adeline Marie Robinson.
So there's that one. I only could find 2 when I was looking for them quickly this morning. Here's another one.
Lionel, please be more specific. Resistance Chicks live Sunday at 1 p.m. EST. They are amazing. There we go. Thank you, Adelaide. Again, Resistance Chicks.
Oh my gosh.
This is them now.
Oh my gosh.
You want me to tell you this?
Oh my gosh.
Live Sunday, 1 p.m.
Now, Leah.
Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, you're here. You're here right now. So if there is anyone here today, because Lionel and Adeline told you guys to come from Lionel Nation, welcome. Our subscribership on Resistance Chicks went up by 20 people yesterday. After that. That was just on the Resistance Chicks channel. So, thank you, dear Adeline, for doing that. And we want to welcome anybody that is here today from Lionel Nation. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Adeline, for doing that. Apparently, at the very end, correct me if I'm wrong, and I wanted to find this one, but I couldn't, on the video, he was like, I don't even know who these people are. Here I am, I'm giving them a shout out. I don't know. Lionel, if you are seeing this, here we are. This is us. We've been on Alex Jones. Does that give us a little bit more credence? Twice. All right, you guys. So today is our European and UK news show. So if we do have new people from Lionel's show or anybody else that's here today and they've never seen Resistance Chicks, we are 2 sisters. Yeah. We own a business. We own a home. We own a farm together. We run a YouTube channel together, and that's why you're here. And every Sunday we go live covering the top news in the European Union and in the United Kingdom, pretty much world news, essentially. But that's the best way to describe it. And we also go live on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, where we kind of do like a weekly roundup, and then any time in between that we feel like it. So today we're going to cover Boris Johnson resigned over this ridiculous Burka comment. Okay, you guys, come on, admit it. They look like a mail slot. That's what he said. It looks, and this is more of a British thing than people in the United States are going to grasp, because they have a lot more mail slots still in the United Kingdom. I mean, they're kind of known for that, right? The little red mailboxes.
Okay, so right now the uproar over Boris Johnson.
Horatio's telling me that he has not resigned.
Okay, well, that's news to me, because there was a.
I'm gonna have to change my whole title. We're gonna change the whole show, Horatio.
No, well, if he has not unresigned, maybe that was fake news article that I read that he was forced to resign. And here's how. Wait, are you sure? Because I read an entire article that said that he resigned and is now writing for the Telegraph. Okay. Now I'll try to find that article, but the article was saying that you're supposed to get 3 months. Give 3 months before you take a job after you resign from a position.
Okay.
And he is now writing for the Telegraph, and there's a ministry that's supposed to say whether you can take a job or not. Right. And they're upset that Boris Johnson did not go to them.
Yeah.
And ask them first if he could take this Telegraph job. Right. That's a UK newspaper article place. So if that was fake news, then I will have to check that out. But that's what I'm getting. I mean,
leave it to Horatio. For those of you that do not know, Horatio is a good friend of mine that we've never met, because he won't come and visit us. That's why. Who loves to make waves. Do you remember when I told you guys that William Sessions was Jeff Sessions' dad, and he's not? I mean, at least if it is fake news, I'm glad that you're here, Horatio. If it's not fake news, then you're just being a stinker. We're going to have to get to the bottom of this because it's totally in the title.
Right. Yeah. Maybe it was just, I'll have to find it. I'll have to just say it was the Voice of Europe. So let's just get to the fact that he said what he said.
Okay, then, but I need to change the title then if it's not true.
It was an article I read, so let's leave it up for a minute. We'll figure this out. Boris Johnson is being urged to back former Brexit Secretary David Davis as an interim Prime Minister in a Tory plot that could oust Theresa May as early as October. The former secretary and two-time mayor of London.
Abominable Snowman says Boris hasn't resigned. There's nothing on Google, and he would do it on Monday morning to a full press.
Okay, well, then you can change the title, and I will have to chalk that up to a fake news article that I read.
All right, so what do you want me to do? Just Boris Johnson, Burka
Under
comment?
fire.
Under fire.
How about that?
Okay, we're going to change it to under fire. I'm going to change it on Twitter, too, and Facebook.
Okay. The world has come to an end. Watch out. You know what, though? And here's the thing. In combating fake news or a false thing that you read,
right?
You as an adult and we as adults have to be able to research for ourselves, and we don't need a ministry of truth, okay? We can be our own ministry of truth. So this is actually one of those good things.
Exactly. So glad we have Horatio, who's going to be prancing around his house like a little schoolboy for the rest of his day.
I will find the article, though, and I will send it to you, okay? And you can tell me what you think of it. I don't make things up. I read it. It was a whole thing on this ministry saying Boris should have asked whether he could have taken the Telegraph job. And maybe it had to do with Boris Johnson resigning from Theresa May's cabinet or something.
Barry says the chick's now creating fake news. Thank you, Britt Baza. And I did get your message. Remind me once again at the end of the show. That's where I wanna show that to everybody. So,
but here's the thing: I don't care if Alex Jones makes fake news. He has a First Amendment right to do it. Okay? You can't take him off of Twitter, and there is like this one ministry of truth. There's this one line of truth. What is so funny?
I'm just still laughing at me going, oh, welcome all the people from Lionel Nation to our European and UK news where you can get the top of everything right, and then we are giving fake news.
It's not fake news! I read it! I will find it.
This is why you'll hear from Lionel Nation, because you can't get this kind of programming just anywhere.
The former secretary and two-time mayor of London is popular with the party's grassroots and has personal ambitions to be the leader, but is being asked to pause his own leadership bid, the Mail on Sunday reports. Mr. Davis and Mr. Johnson resigned from the cabinet.
Right, that is
after
true.
Prime Minister Theresa May announced she would be pursuing a soft Brexit.
Right, and I can't
the
edit a
row
tweet.
over Mr. Johnson being investigated by the Tory High Command for criticizing the Islama burqa,
right,
is said to have heightened tensions within the party and opposition to Mrs. May, right, particularly after she publicly called on him to apologize. Senior allies of Mr. Davis say a leadership contest would be a disaster for the country ahead of Brexit, and want the party to simply appoint Mr. Davis as Mrs. May is ousted in a vote of no confidence. The source said, the membership is massively behind Boris on this. If there weren't enough Tory MPs ready to support no confidence letters when we left Westminster last month, there probably will be now. One senior ex-minister said on Saturday night, everyone knows Boris would romp home in any leadership poll where party members get a vote. So obviously, Tory MPs ready to support no confidence. The problem is that with crucial Brexit talks this autumn, we can't afford a full 3-month leadership contest.
Right.
As ex-Brexit Secretary David Davis is the only candidate who could be accepted by Tory MPs without the need for a full-scale contest. To reassure Boris, we're pointing out that David is 70 his next birthday, although he's fit. I guess he just wouldn't want to serve for years and years. Mr. Johnson's friends, meanwhile, insist he is not pushing the plan and it is other people behind it. So, is Boris going to be put into leadership position? That's the question. But there is a civil war. Tory Brexiteers are threatening rebellion over the Boris Burka investigation. They're investigating him. They're investigating him over his burqa comments where he said he doesn't want to ban the burqa.
No.
But that it is uncomfortable to be face-to-face with somebody who looks like a bank robber or a letterbox holder. Boop. Boop. There are many memes of the burqa lately.
Right.
And if Michelle wanted to come up with some, that would be, I don't know if they take you off for making fun of the burqa or not. I don't know if it's hate speech.
I don't know.
Nothing is.
This one is actually my favorite. Hang on, I'm just pulling this up for you guys to see this. I love this one.
While you're bringing up pictures, I'm going to. Senior Tory Brexiteer MPs are revolting against the politically correct investigation into Boris Johnson for joking about the burqa, with one threatening a civil war. The former secretary compared the appearance of Muslims wearing the Islamic garment earlier this week to bank robbers and letterboxes, although he said he did not support banning it, although it has been banned in other countries, by the way.
But, here's the comparison. Okay, somebody brought this up. I don't know how big this is going to get. That's an article. I don't want that. You guys can still see it. So there's the comparison of the kind of British letterbox. And, seriously, it's pretty accurate. Similar. Wrong color, but the slot is the same.
Mm-hmm. I bet dimension-wise, it's exact.
Could be, for almost sure. Looks exact. Yeah. So
Prime Minister Theresa May was quick to demand that he apologize, along with the party chairman, Brandon Lewis, and the conservative Muslim foreman leader, Lord Sheikh. And now the Tory High Command have launched an investigation into his conduct. Tory High Command. The 3-person panel will now decide if a full investigation is needed into whether or not he broke the Tory Code of Conduct. If this goes ahead, one Tory MP told The Times it would result in a civil war in the party. Jacob Rees-Mogg, the leading backbench Brexiteer MP, which I'm hoping he goes to the front, also slammed Mrs. May for instructing Mr. Johnson to apologize, telling LBC listeners, "It's not the job of the Prime Minister to tell backbenchers what to do. We are not bound by collective responsibility or that type of discipline, and it is wrong to approach the party party discipline. Meanwhile, pro-Brexit Tory MP Andrew Brigan said he was deeply worried and a dark day for democracy when the investigation was actually launched. I think a lot of your listeners will be deeply worried about the state of our democracy and free speech. Unfortunately, under the new code of conduct, if a formal complaint is lodged, and I believe that report says Lord Sheik, a conservative peer, has lodged a formal complaint, it has to be investigated. I hope it's dismissed immediately as frivolous and vexatious. If it does go to a full disciplinary panel, I think there's a huge question given that Theresa May, the Prime Minister, and Brandon Lewis, the party chairman, have basically already said that Boris shouldn't have said it and should apologize. I don't understand this apology, and this is what I've been saying on Twitter, and like, listen, you don't have to apologize for facts, okay? It's very uncomfortable to be in a room with somebody whose face is covered in black even. It's not normal.
Right.
There is a reason why bank robbers cover their faces.
Yeah.
And here's where the essence goes to. That women are not to be seen in public.
Right.
And any woman who would believe that they are not to be seen in public,
okay,
does have an inferiority mindset.
Okay.
It's a fact.
Yes.
If you think that your face being shown in public would cause some man to sin or stumble, which is why they wear it.
Yeah.
That you have to hide your face, but men don't.
Right.
You are inferior to men.
Right.
And so when you look at them, you know that you're not dealing with somebody who actually does think that they're equal to men, and
right.
they don't think you're equal to men. So it's a circular reason that goes around and around in circles. Why are you furrowing your brows? They're covering themselves and their faces because they believe or they're told they're inferior to men.
I'm only furrowing my brows because I'm just trying to follow.
It's a fact.
Fact. Yes.
Fact that it makes me uncomfortable to be around somebody who thinks that they're inferior to men. That their face alone is going to cause men to sin or stumble or lust after them.
And you're linking that to Boris not having to apologize.
Because you don't need to apologize for facts.
Got it. Right.
You don't need to apologize for the fact that it does look like a letterbox carrier. That it makes you uncomfortable that they do look like bank robbers.
Right.
Put a bank robber next to a person in a burqa. It's the same exact thing.
Well, they were talking about throwing the whip at him, which I thought was a little bit, extreme for the party. If he doesn't apologize, they're going to throw the whip at him. And maybe one of our people from the United Kingdom can explain that a little bit better than I can to our viewers.
I would like to explain something even further. The difference between this particular thing and, like, let's say the Amish women who cover their head. Okay? There's a difference between being sacred, and I don't have a problem with the hijab. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to demand it. Okay? But the hijab could be considered something that is keeping something special.
Yeah.
But your face is how, as somebody else put it, your face is how you communicate. We don't just communicate with words.
Oh, absolutely
We communicate with our smile.
Yeah.
And so you don't know what that other person is thinking just by looking at their eyes.
Right.
We trust people based on facial expressions because we're taught from the time we were children. Smile, mommy loves you, or this is a good person.
Little known fact that dogs also look at, I'm going to get this wrong, it's either the right or the left side of your face. They only kind of focus on one side of your face, but they do respond and react to smiles.
Right.
They totally respond and react to smiles.
Well, Islam doesn't do dogs, so maybe that's what they're missing there.
To a friend the other day, and you had said something, and the friend didn't respond at all with any words, but their facial expression said 1,000 words. And I had said to another friend on the phone the other day, telling them about this, and I said, if that had been a phone conversation, I never would have known what this person was thinking.
And you never would have if they were wearing a burqa.
Exactly.
And so Grandma Marilyn, she's passing away.
Yeah.
And she can't really speak.
She was speaking to us with her facial expressions for a good solid, week.
And that's how we communicated with her. Mm-hmm. Non-verbal communication is almost more important than verbal communication.
Yeah.
Plus, when you're wearing the burqa, your verbal communications are muffled.
Yeah.
So it's like actually dealing with somebody who is imposing blindness or imposing being mute on purpose because of religious principles. Yeah. It's very difficult to deal with somebody who can speak, who can hear, but they're choosing not to or can see.
Well, you know what else they're doing is they are forcing, this is a fact, they are forcing a disability on you as a person.
Exactly.
I don't have the disability that I can't see. I'm not blind.
Right.
I can use facial expressions to gauge a situation and how a person is feeling and what their intentions are.
I use facial expressions from people to see if I should trust them or not.
Exactly.
I can't if I don't see you face to face. How do I know to trust you?
So when they say that it's just completely a personal choice that they aren't doing, they actually are taking something from you if you have to interact with them. If they're just walking down the street, whatever, I could kind of go with that, except for they may go to rob a bank and you can't judge that either. But as far if you're required, let's say they go shopping or something like that, if you're required to interact with them, they are literally taking something from you. They're taking your ability to judge and to use your own personal senses to gauge whether this person is safe and what you think about them.
Yeah, you could have even put Burkagate in the title. That would have been hilarious. So I want to give you some comments here from Peter Hitchens. Now, he's a kind of a famous, I guess, commenter, author, writer, journalist in the UK. And he has a brother who is an anti-theist, a writer. His name is Christopher Hitchens. You guys probably know who they are. But Peter Hitchens has waded in on the debate surrounding Boris Johnson's burqa comments, declaring that it's actually Christianity and not Islam that is under fire or under siege in Great Britain. Okay? You're allowed to say anything against Christianity.
Right.
Anything you want.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, they have the most vile, in America, they have Feces on a Cross Day or something, and our National Arts Institute pays for it. Imagine feces on and dog hair all over Mohammed or something.
Right. Well, you can't have an image of Mohammed, but I know what you mean.
So he's a conservative commenter and journalist, and he said that the present day establishment has a hostility towards religion in general, but particularly into Christianity. In his column on the reaction to the Brexiteer Boris Johnson, and criticism of the ridiculous burqa touched on this theme, comparing the media's sustained coverage of this supposed scandal. Okay? The scandal isn't the burqa.
Right.
The scandal is talking maybe some truth about the burqa.
Right.
Which is absolutely crazy and weird. And it is crazy and weird for me to be thinking that I could be classified as hate speech for even discussing this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Comparing the media's sustained coverage of the supposed scandal to its indifference to the treatment of a Christian nurse who was actually fired because she gave a patient a Bible. And the only way she got her job back, so she had to write this groveling, penitent thing, saying, to regain the favor of her bosses, she had to write a reflective screed in which she incorporated her obligations in relation to having clear professional boundaries and not expressing your personal beliefs in an inappropriate way, and set out steps this person has taken to address the deficiencies highlighted in her practice.
Wow.
And she had addressed how she would act differently in the future. And she confessed her thought crime and promised not to repeat it by handing a patient in the hospital a Bible.
I don't know about you guys overseas, but we have the Gideons. Now, the Gideons are allowed into hospitals. They are allowed into hotels and motels to leave the Gideon Bible there for anybody that may. And do you know how many lives or souls, I should say, that the Gideon Bible has saved? Because if you're in a moment, whether you're in a hospital or alone in a hotel room and there is nothing else there, and you open up that Bible, it really does. They are making a change. And so in a scenario where I don't know how nurses do it, we've been dealing with nurses for the past 3.5 weeks. Right. It's very difficult to distance yourself from a patient. And so if you're looking at a patient, and I'm guessing this was probably one of the first times she had ever done this because she just got caught doing it. So I don't know that she would have done it before, but let's just say for argument's sake, this was the first time that she had ever done this. I'm going to guess, and I'm totally making this up here, that patient probably expressed a desire. It was probably not one of these things where, here, you need this Bible, right? It was probably mutual. And that's where I think I have a little bit of a problem because they ask you to leave your religion and who you are at the door when it comes to your profession. And I'm not down with that in society, guys. I have to tell you.
Well, and I have to tell you that that's not a thing here in America. Right. Because I have been in hospital over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And if there's always a mention of God or it's your time to go. Oh, yeah. Higher power or something like that. I mean, especially in hospice or something like that. God will take you when he's ready. Yeah. We've never had anybody say or anybody complain, somebody might say I'm an atheist or something like that, but then it's never an issue. But in the UK, it's like this huge issue. Not to mention the fact that most nursing practices started in Christianity. So the Red Cross is Christian. Okay? All of our hospitals, almost all of them, have had some sort of founding in Christianity or, and so it's all over our hospital, so I guess we're allowed to, but because you're NHS and you're public, right? It's kind of sad. So anyways, he goes on to say, this contracts sharply with the defense of the Islamist women's right to make an ostentatious display of their faith by wearing full face veils. And this is what he was saying. This is what I was trying to say. So, an expression of your faith that everybody has to engage in is a full-face burqa. We all have to engage in this stupid thing.
Absolutely.
Okay? Offered by officials up to an AOC.
Hang on. Michelle Ava is here, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, from Lionel yesterday, and she is a nurse. And so is David in here too. So we do have a couple of nurses in the chat, and I am curious how you guys feel about interacting with your patients when a spiritual touch and word is necessary. Yeah. And needed. Mm-hmm. Carry on.
Hitchens observed that Christianity was pretty much the origin of modern nursing, but has now fallen victim to a culture evolution which regards the Christian faith with special loathing. I doubt the same horrible process would have been imposed on a nurse who suggested her patients attend a mosque or give them a copy of the Quran.
No way. They totally would be allowed to do that.
So here is actually a little clip, a 1-minute clip from Christopher Hitchens, his brother, who is like an anti-theist, but in 2009 warned everybody that if you do not quash this term, Islamophobia, it will eat you alive and take away all your free speech.
Wow. Let's hear it.
This is very urgent business, ladies and gentlemen. I beseech you. Resist it while you still can, and before the right to complain is taken away from you, which will be the next thing. You will be told you can't complain because you're Islamophobic. The term is already being introduced into the culture as if it was an accusation of race hatred, for example, or bigotry, whereas it's only the objection to the preachings of a very extreme and absolutist religion. Watch out for these symptoms. They are just symptoms of surrender, very often ecumenically offered to you by men of God in other robes, Christian and Jewish and smarmy ecumenical. These are the ones who will hold open the gates for the barbarians. The barbarians never take a city till someone holds the gates open for them. And it's your own preachers who will do it for you, and your own multicultural authorities who will do it for you. Resist it while you can.
Wow.
The barbarians only come in when somebody opens and keeps the gates open for them.
No, you guys are so correct. All right, so David answered my question. He said, I say God bless, but respect the patient's religion and culture. Britt Baza said that in the UK we have Red Cross and St. John ambulance service. So yes, nursing does hark back to Christianity. Let's see. Abominable Snowman says Red Cross has a free app. It's apparently very good. First aid instructions. They do, actually. I did the Red Cross babysitting course when I was a teenager. Learned CPR and the Heimlich and all that stuff.
Okay, so our favorite, Nigel Farage, he is slamming this comparison to war hero burns to the burqa. It's actually really crazy and weird. Nigel Farage has slammed Sky News anchor Kay Burley's unfair, personal, and cruel comparison to Falklands war hero Simon Weston's facial burns to a burqa. Not a thing! Which prompted over 20,000 people to sign a petition demanding she apologize or resign. The Brexit campaign leader and former UKIP Supremo, Nigel, gave his assessment of Burley's performance while sharing Breitbart London's article on the Exchange August 7th. So he says, very unfair, personal, and cruel for Kay Burley to use war hero Simon Weston's disfigurement in an argument about the burqa.
Wow.
Okay? There's no comparison.
I read this yesterday, and my brain literally went on tilt.
Yeah.
She should have been fired.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. Bridgen, after describing his background in evolutionary biology, said it was natural to feel uncomfortable about full-face veils as they prevent people from reading each other's expressions. Refusing to accept this point, which is what we just talked about, right? Mm-hmm. Burley shot back, so what? I don't know. Something like Simon Weston, who can't necessarily show his facial expressions, given what happened to him at the Falklands, and he was so hideously burned. Does that offend you? No, not at all, replied Bridgen, who appeared shocked by the question. But he can't show his facial expressions the way that you've just been illustrating, so just take that to its logical conclusion for me, she says, considering that was a slam dunk for her. The public was less impressed by Burley's line of questioning than she was herself.
I wonder how long she thought on that. Like, I got this great idea. It's going to be so great. Maybe you should have run that past somebody else first.
Yeah, he became a celebrated charity campaigner. He can't discard his injuries, as an Islamist can with their burqa, and partly because of her insensitive characterization of Welsh's veteran appearance as hideous. That was probably like...
part that really was oops that's there.
Yeah, oops, and then people have signed petitions. Burley's conduct also prompted a former letter of complaint from the UK Independence Party after it called her comparison crass and idiotic.
Yeah.
And the presenter, who is supposed to be bound by broadcaster impartiality rules, responded, criticized by UKIP, my work here is done.
Okay, so Worth a Look says, couldn't believe when Kate on Sky News did that. She was also the same one who called Nigel racist on air and then got destroyed by Nigel.
Look at people's faces for the response to what we're doing and what we're saying.
So what about, I don't know, somebody like Simon Weston, who can't necessarily show his facial expressions given what happened to him at the Falklands and he was so hideously burned. So,
I've met Simon many times.
Yeah, so, I mean, does that offend you?
No, not at all.
But he can't show his facial expressions the way that you've just been illustrating. So just take that to its logical conclusion for me.
He's stunned.
So for what? That is an absolutely ridiculous comparison. I mean, he's a decorated war hero who's been terribly wounded in the service of his country. I mean, who was going to look at Simon Weston as anything other than absolutely, esteem?
Okay, absolutely, I completely agree with you. But what about other people then with facial disfigurements? People who potentially have been injured, I don't know, in 7/7 or whatever. How would you feel about them when they can't show the same facial expressions as other people?
We're talking about somebody who can't and somebody who won't, unless if she's following her line of thinking to the logical conclusion.
Right.
Under Islam, you can't show your facial expressions, which shows that this is not a religion, that it's a cult.
Exactly.
So she either has to recant on the can't show facial expressions. I guarantee you, every single person with a facial disfigurement would pay $1 million, would just give their right arm to get their face back.
Right.
Everybody wants to get their face back because we know that's how we
communicate
with people. It's like literally having, your voice gone or something like that. It's the same thing as like listening to Robert Kennedy Jr. with that quiver that he has in his voice.
Yeah.
He's not trying to hide anything. He just can't get all of his words out. So you just listen closely.
Carefully. Yeah.
Right? But if he was doing it on purpose, I wouldn't listen to him because it's too annoying.
Right.
You know, if somebody was doing it on purpose, that would be
Right.
wrong.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's the difference between doing something on purpose.
People. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Kay, I'm talking about the science behind the behaviour of how we interact generally as human beings with each other. There are millions of years of evolution in us making a decision on looking at people's faces,
Right.
as to whether we want to trust them, whether they believe what we're saying.
I believe what he's saying
people
more.
watching politicians
Do you see what I'm
will look
saying?
at facial
You're just
expressions
really
and say,
able to
well,
do that.
yes, I believe what
Do you
they're saying or
understand
not.
what I'm?
You
do you
wouldn't be
understand?
happy if I were
Just
wearing
picture it yourself.
a mask
Right.
at the moment.
I don't even know.
or,
I don't know who
a
this guy is, but
full-face
then when I see his face,
helmet, and you
it
couldn't
just
see
lips move
whether
a little bit here and
your
there.
viewers can actually think, well,
Just
does
do it
Andrew
on your own
actually believe
computer
what he's
screen.
saying or not? What I'm talking to is the science
And see
of,
which
of,
one
of
makes you
human
feel
behaviour.
safer.
Yeah, and recognising
And how people
and
may feel
facial
uncomfortable
expressions. I
if
get
they
that.
can't see the
but
response.
you don't feel it's that people have been facially disfigured, so it is just burkas then, really?
No, I would feel equally uncomfortable if someone's trying to have a conversation with me in a full-face crash helmet with the visor down and I can't see their face. That's not a way to have a comfortable conversation, is it?
What about describing?
Wow. That was an excellent comeback there.
She's an idiot.
What he was saying is, like, if, like, let's say there was somebody with a motorcycle helmet with the visor down, it is still uncomfortable to have a conversation with somebody. And you know what? Actually, I will let you guys in on a little secret. I love sunglasses. Like, I don't know if my eyes just can't do the sun. I always have sunglasses. But I do make sure that when I am talking to somebody, I try my very hardest, if I can, to periodically take my sunglasses off so that they can see my full face, so that they can see my full facial expressions, because it's rude. It literally is rude to be hiding part of your face. If you guys wear a lot of sunglasses and you never thought of that, it is rude to talk to somebody with your sunglasses on. You know what I mean? More than just, it used to be gentlemen took their hats off. I mean, come on. It's just rude to be hiding some part of you in a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Phil says it's uncomfortable talking to somebody in sunglasses. Thank you.
So Jacob Rees Moggs, no. I always say put an S in there. I don't know why. Has penned an article in Boris's defense, and just to read a clip here. Tories have not previously expressed outrage at criticisms of the burqa, so why now? Envy is one of the 7 deadly sins, and a particularly poisonous one, he says, for it is not an excuse of something reasonable, but entirely devoid of merit. Boris Johnson, because of his many successes, popularity with voters, and charisma, attracts more than his fair share of his disagreeable vice. The excitement caused by his comments on the burqa are a symptom of this. Basically, he's way more popular than Theresa May. People like him, and that's why they're going after him, and that's why they're attacking him. That's why they're trying to take him down.
Right.
Okay? Now, I want to bring up a couple more things while we're in Britain. So, and I don't know how truthful this is because you guys, you're over there, and I'm not sure where exactly you are at Brexit. But James Dellingpool, he writes for Breitbart London, has said this: finally, Brexit phony war is over. Britain's Trump-style revolution has begun.
Wow.
So, if I'm missing something, then I'm glad. But he pens this article, which I read earlier this morning in preparing for the show, and he says, this is it. The moment we've been waiting for, the moment when the Brexit rebellion has finally begun. Is it over the burqa? Is it over this? Like, could this be a tipping point? Because, like, Tommy, like, all these different things, like, all the terrorist attacks take you to take you further. Yeah. And then, Tommy Robinson takes people further. And then, seriously, you can't. Boris Johnson attacked over this silly letterbox where he wasn't even calling for a burqa ban, which other European countries have already done.
The Netherlands?
Was it Belgium or Austria? Austria, I think. He says, enough of this peeing about. They like that word in the UK. Enough lawyerly excuses and civil service provocation and Remainer politician maneuverings. We voted Brexit. Now give us Brexit. Give us Brexit strong and hard, Boris. That is, in a nutshell, is what the people of Britain have been saying this week. except that the way they have expressed it is in the context of another issue entirely. Instead of talking about Brexit, everyone has been preoccupied with the other two B words, Boris and Burka. But make no mistake, it is Brexit that is the underlying reason as to why Boris Johnson versus the Burka has been dominating the British media. Do you understand? He's putting these two things together.
Absolutely.
The reason they're talking is the same thing that they bring Trump up all the time on these all these crazy things.
Yeah.
Is because they don't want him to make America great again.
Right.
And they see in Boris Johnson a potential populist leader that could really make Brexit happen.
Yes.
He believes in it.
Yeah.
And if he was prime minister, it would happen. Okay. So
hang on a second, because I need to interject something right here. We are now actually streaming on Facebook Live, which we weren't able to do for the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
I finally got that fixed yesterday. And Adele says, I think that's how this comment name is, Kay Burley, that reporter, is an absolute disgrace. She should be fired. Kay thinks she's being smart. She's definitely not smart. She's a fool to compare a man who has lost his face fighting for our country. We are not allowed to wear helmets in the petrol station. We have to remove them so that we can be visible on CCTV.
Really?
I felt that was a comment worth reading. So I don't know if that's a thing here in the United States.
So yeah. Like the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914, the Boris and the Burka business is just a pretext for the inevitable main event, which was always going to happen in one form or another. Only till it happened, no one knew quite how or when. That's why I'm writing about Boris and the Burka for the third time this week. Not because I think it is in and of itself a particularly important story, but because of its massive, broader significance. If this rebellion goes the way I hope it goes, the effects will be seismic indeed. What it will mean is that Britain, glory be, will soon find herself in a position as envious and covetable as the United States under Donald Trump. Get this one right, Britain, and once more you'll be a force to be reckoned with. We'll have the chance to become more prosperous, proud, and free than we've been in since the days of the Empire. Get this one wrong, and it's pretty much game over for this particular corner of Western civilization. Let me just recap the story. It all began on Monday when Boris, formerly mayor of London, formerly foreign secretary, currently the leading candidate in the Brexit camp to replace Theresa May as prime minister, wrote a newspaper column about the burqa. And I'm guessing, this is what I'm guessing, is that I read an article that was probably...
Here it comes.
About his resignation from Theresa May and taking the Telegraph job.
I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
The middle of July.
Right.
Was it fake news?
Not fake news. He totally did resign.
And he wasn't supposed to take the job from the Telegraph.
Right.
It said resignation.
Yes.
Okay. So now
we're
clear on it.
News. However, there will be no living with Horatio for the next week.
I am glad for Horatio. We change the title and we move on. It's what we do. Okay. Fine. The problem was the date on the article. When I read resignation, it was probably written when he resigned for whatever. And actually, what I'm guessing is he's in trouble for taking the job of the Telegraph now, but it was over his resignation from the cabinet. It didn't say from the cabinet, by the way. All right. Nothing particularly exceptional here, you might think. After all, lots of people, left and right, Christian and Muslim, have similar stuff over the years. Let me see. I think I moved on. Sorry. The gist of the piece was that he didn't believe it should be banned, but that wouldn't be the British way and it would be counterproductive, but that personally he found it an unpleasant garment which oppressed women. And here's the thing. And I'm sorry I haven't started with this. There's no scriptural basis for it in the Quran. So it's not Islamophobic if you're saying, and here's the thing, I follow tons of women, ex-Muslim women on Twitter, and if you listen to them, and they are saying over and over again, there's a woman, and I should bring her up if I follow her all the time, she tweets out all this stuff. She used to have to wear the burqa.
Right.
And she hates it. She hated it. It was awful. She said it was oppressive. She said the hijab is oppressive. So if I am to listen to these women who are begging me as a Western Christian person who doesn't have to cover their head and stuff like that, saying, listen, would you stand in solidarity
Absolutely.
with me?
Yeah.
They drew the line in the sand, right? These women under Islamic oppression drew the line in the sand and said, will somebody stick up for me?
Right.
And so what we have here is the women who are going for the vote. Will you stick up for me?
Absolutely.
Right? Will you stick up for me to have a voice? Will you stick up for me? And then you have the other people saying, no, there are women who don't want the voice. The women who don't want this. Well, that's their choice. They can stay over here. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to stand with the people who want freedom for everybody, because Christianity is based on freedom for everybody.
Exactly.
There is neither Jew nor Greek nor
there's no
slave
limitation.
There's
no male or female
nor female.
Right.
Under Christianity, we're all equal under Christianity.
Exactly. Yeah. So Belinda Kennedy says Boris is part of the UK swamp. I do not disagree with that statement at all. There are a lot of things that Boris says and does that make me go, like that, okay? But to me, the most important thing for the UK right now is Brexit.
There are lesser evils.
Exactly.
Right? And there are greater goods and lesser goods and things like that. So you see that he made a stand against Theresa May.
Right.
Right? So then you have to stand with him for standing against those who want to destroy Brexit.
Right. But I agree with that statement. I just wanted you to know. We're not like, hey, Boris Johnson's going to be the next Donald Trump.
So you've got the people who are playing the Islamophobia grievance card. You've got the socialists from the Labour Party spotting a handy excuse to distract from all the stories about Jeremy Corbyn's anti-Semitism. It's just the Labour Party's anti-Semitism is just absolutely crazy.
It's hypocritical.
Yeah. And then you've got bitter Ramoners within the Conservative Party, and they're all trying to just take on this Burka thing as like the next, big thing. And to understand why this story is so important, you need to see it as a clash between the two dominant ideological forces of our time. It's difficult giving them labels because each is so multifarious, and I have no idea what other word he used. But for the sake of the argument, let's call it traditionalism against postmodernism. And I hate that word. I know that Jordan Peterson uses it all the time. The way I see it is just like modern times versus traditional times of progressivism. Progressivism is the way I view it. Traditionalists believe broadly in the tried and tested and common sense, old-fashioned qualities like resilience, self-determination, personal responsibility, common sense patriotism, loyalty, self-sacrifice, honor, duty, deferred gratification.
Huh. That's really good.
Yeah. In family values, in free speech, and in liberty and natural justice. These progressive, postmoderns, whatever you want to call them, broadly want a world anew on a progressive model which rejects the past, wants to erase the past, embraces change as an automatic good, which seeks to impose by force, if necessary, social justice on a world it divides into oppressed and oppressors, and which believes there is no such thing as absolute truth. There is no male or female. We're going to get to an article where Italy is reversing this progressive clock, and we are so grateful for the Italianos. So you've got these traditionalists are conservatives, though they might not identify as such. The postmoderns are basically Marxists. And we can see that, although they might actually not be able to see it in bulk if you called them communists.
Oh, yeah.
Preferring to think of themselves as liberals or socialists or social democrats.
But what they're doing is they're trying to redefine age-old phrases and labels that we have had for the past 100 years.
But basically, this liberal democratic, which, I mean, seriously, it's like trying to... What I love what's happening in America is they are going so progressive. And the Democrats who are happy to just be deep state swamp in the middle are going insane because they have been pushing an ideology. And when you take that ideology and when you brainwash children into communist principles, and then suddenly they're actually turning into communists, they're trying to walk it back like the Cortez chick.
Well, it's not just that. It's kind of like having created a Frankenstein.
Exactly.
You created this Frankenstein, and then you're like, whoa, what happened? How did we get here? And they're trying to get these kids to kind of rein back because now it's a little embarrassing. And not just embarrassing, but now they are of a voting age, and they are making changes in the United States that are pretty scary even to the liberals.
Why Crazy Bernie actually did beat out Clinton in the primary.
Oh, yeah.
And should have gone face-to-face with Donald Trump.
It's called the public school system. It's the education system that raised up these kids to vote this way.
And what they think is that there's an endless supply of money, and it can endlessly supply whatever we want, whenever we want it.
Teaching in economics at school?
We all need food. We all need shelter. We all need a basic universal income. How does that even work for? I mean, basic universal income.
No clue.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. But anyways, you've got these people. The only difference between them and the communists that under Stalin and Mao, without the bread queues and the gulags, I would say there are secret police. They say without secret police. No, do we definitely have secret police? Remember this May when Jean-Claude Juncker gives a heartfelt defense of Karl Marx?
Yeah.
Seriously? So you've got people in the traditionalist camp, and they're looking at this Burka thing, and they're like, it's common sense, dude. It's all about common sense. We're like, dude, it looks like a letter mailbox. I don't want to talk to somebody with the face. And then you have everybody else who's like living in an alternate reality where it's like, Islamophobia, Muslims are great, Islam is great. We have to blah 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 blah.
Can we just because I know this is taking up like literally an hour of our show, but that's okay. Can we just stop and compare jabs, as it were? All right. So he said that the women wearing the hijab makes them look like letter boxes. He did not say that women wearing the hijab look like Jabba the Hutt or a pig or a pile of poo or something that you could take offense to, okay? It's a letterbox. And you know what? Maybe Boris really likes letterboxes. Maybe they're his favorite. Maybe it was a compliment. Maybe he really likes mailing things in the mail. Maybe he gets a thrill out of that. Maybe looking deep into the eyes of the woman wearing the burqa and the slot that only reveals the mystery behind the eyes reminds him of the joy that you get when you get a letter from your grandma in the mail. I don't know. We don't know. Okay? The dig, as it were, that they are talking about, that they are throwing up their hands in the air. I cannot believe he compared them to letterboxes. The offense knows no depths. It's so horrible. It's awful. It's like Roseanne Barr and the ape thing. I mean, it's the worst thing on the face of the planet. I can't even imagine.
How about...
Makes me ill to think that he said that.
How about they at least are required to wear name tags?
Hey, good idea.
Because how do you recognize your friend walking down the street?
This kind of reminds me of that movie with Robert... what's his name? No, not Robert. You're number one. You're number
Robert
two.
Duvall.
Robert Duvall. Okay, it's that movie with like Kevin Costner. He's got all those little Asian girls, and he doesn't have names for them, so he literally calls them. He's like, "Okay, you're number one. You're number two." I mean, seriously.
Okay, so this is hypocrisy, and we're going to move on after this.
Okay.
The Guardian in 2013 had a Muslim woman pen an article that went like this: with the escape of Mohammed Mohammed, the burqas getting a bad press. Here are some top tips to rejuvenate the black onesie's image. Yes, the burqa bashing season is upon us again. The latest catalyst is a terrorist suspect turned transvestite who entered a London mosque in Western clothing and popped out later in his burqa day suit, fleeing security services and evading cameras. While he has managed to escape, his bilious disguise has not gone under the radar. Cue the latest burqa-phobic frenzy, with Tory politicians seizing the opportunity to call for a burqa ban, and the Sun's front page story dubbing it the female Islamic costume. I'm not sure if they meant it would be a great fancy dress outfit, but it does scare the bejeebies out of the radical Bangladeshi writers such as who tweeted, "No Halloween costume is scarier than the burqa." This black onesie really couldn't get more controversial. The dangerous criminalization of the burqa and those who wear it plays out repeatedly so that women wear, or what women wear, or more specifically, what Muslim women wear. But she says, she goes on to write an article for the top, I think, 9 uses of it. A getaway costume. It might be less aerodynamic than a balaclava, but some people will assume you're a fundamentalist rather than a bank robber. Radically safer. Yeah. Fire blanket for a Guy Fawkes event. Who said the burqa was a security hazard? Your burqa can double up as a safety blanket should anyone catch a light. If there's no time to remove your burqa, fling yourself upon a aforesaid pyro victim. Remember, drop and roll. A court disguise. Guess Who Burqa Edition. Create your own line of Guess Who games using real-life participations in a burqa identity parade made up of your mates. Please note, burqa is not included. Superhero outfit. Internet dating profile pic. Looking for someone to love you for who you are rather than what you look like? don a burqa for your profile image and find a meaningful relationship with someone who agrees that looks are irrelevant. Avoid spaghetti dates. Spaghetti through a burqa.
Oh, yeah.
Relaunch the post box. Since the burqa eye-opening has been called a letterbox slit, and with the privatization of the Royal Mail, seize the moment to set up an independent mobile mail service, a.k.a. the Burka Post. So here she totally blasts the burqa.
Right.
Right? But then they say you can only blast a burqa if you're a Muslim woman. So it's kind of like only a redhead can call only a ginger can call another ginger. Okay? Are you in seriously, they're saying that you can only make fun of yourself. And
I don't think that was her intent when she wrote it.
So Trump voters belong to the traditionalist camp, and so do Brexiteers. Both groups have been mocked for their lack of university education, but actually that's a strength and not a weakness, because common sense you can't buy. So the traditionalists read Boris and read that Boris made light of the burqa, and their response is, how is not going to be how can I best take offense, but to consider how much of what his opinions go along with their own. But everybody else is about how much can I take offense. Right. So the point is that with this burqa thing, it has been where everybody is coming out. Like, they couldn't come out in defense of Tommy Robinson.
Correct.
Not everyone, not even Nigel.
I know. Poo-poo on Nigel. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit, by the way.
But this kind of like turns the thought process of like, okay, wait a minute, guys. They have 900 police officers investigating hate crimes like online and stuff like that.
Right. And
gun-free Britain, 10 were shot in the multicultural Manchester during this Caribbean carnival. So, what people are saying is that you need to get these police on the ground. Like, from what I hear from you guys in the UK, from what I've read, a lot of petty crimes don't even get reported. So, what is worse? A petty crime of somebody coming in and stealing stuff from your business, or saying something about the burqa
on the internet. And I don't even like the phrase hate speech, but that's what they're...
Yeah.
Right.
So 10 people, including 2 children, have been hospitalized after gunshots were fired in Manchester on Sunday morning as the multicultural city celebrates its Caribbean Carnival. Armed officers were called to Claremont Road, Moss Side, at 2:30 on Sunday and found a number of people suffering injuries which ranged from minor to major.
Justin Hughes, a.k.a. Worth a Look, actually lives in Manchester, and he says it happens every year at that carnival. Something goes down in Moss Side.
So you have a lot of people. 10 people are injured. Now, what's in Moss Side?
Sorry.
What is in Moss Side, Justin? Is it a
rough part of town?
Is it where a lot of immigrants live?
Are you dumb?
I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at here, but I'm guessing the aftermath of whatever happened.
I don't know, but it was loud.
It was loud.
Leah, sorry about that.
Remember, there's a machete attack every 90 minutes in gun-free Britain.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Not even joking.
Wow.
Okay, you want some good news?
Yes.
Let's go to Italy.
We want the good news.
Salvini to restore mother and the father on ID forms, scrapping parent 1 and parent 2. So this big thing that went a little bit Swedish. This big push all over the entire globe.
Parent 1 and parent 2
to take away mom and dad.
I gotta tell y'all something.
Mom and dad. Hey, Mom.
I don't care how you slice it. You need a male and you need a female to make a baby. So there is a mother and there is a father involved. Okay? Whoever wants to take on that role. I mean, because we've seen the switching, right? We've seen these people that, like, a man that turns himself into a woman and a woman that turns herself into a man, and then there are a couple and they have a baby, but like whatever.
She's still female and he's still male.
Exactly. Right? It still takes a man and a woman.
Right.
It doesn't change.
It never will.
It never will.
It never will. It never will. You can get a sperm donor, or you can have somebody carry as a surrogate.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to your DNA, you have a biological mother and a biological father. What we need to have, if you really want to change this up, is two. Okay?
Right.
So biologically, here are your parents so that you know when you grow older. This is the mom that I had.
Yeah.
And this is the dad that I had.
Right.
And these are the two people who have gotten together, or the one person that is going to raise me. Right?
Adele on Facebook says the police don't attend when you call them, and that she is from Manchester also, and Moss Side is full of immigrants.
But I'll tell you what, thank you for that. I bet if you called on a hate crime, they'd be at your door in like 5 seconds.
Like that.
So you actually, if you have a crime, call about the hate crime.
Somebody said I look like a letterbox. Get here, stat. They coming.
Right. In his latest move to defend the traditional family, Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has declared that future identification forms will ask for mother and father instead of parent 1 and parent 2. The leader of the populist Lega party gave the order for the change earlier this week, following a number of measures promoting the concept of the traditional family.
Oh, it's a concept. Could just be age old. That's how we always did things. You know what I'm saying?
Enough with parent 1 and parent 2. I have restored father and mother, he says. I was told that on the Interior Ministry's website, forms for an electronic identity card had been parent 1 and parent 2, he said, adding, I immediately made them change the website, restoring the definition of father and mother. It is a small gesture, but I will do everything I can that is possible that is provided for under the Constitution. We will defend the natural family founded on the union between a man and a woman. Here's the thing. When you're doing that, you're actually telling children, I value you. Your country values you. Yeah. I want you to have the best possible upbringing that we can give you. Yeah. I want to encourage a mother and father to live together in a traditional setting because for thousands of years, people have found that that is the best way to raise children. Okay?
It reminds me of this. Because we are farmers, and everything kind of filters through farm life for me, right? So I look at our pigs, I look at our chickens, and a friend of ours that has a milk cow, so that means she has to have a calf once a year. And she actually pulls that calf off of the mom within 24 hours. Right? She lets the baby get the calf get enough colostrum from the mom, then she pulls the calf so that she can milk the cow. I don't have a problem with her doing that. She takes very good care of the calf, right? But we all know in our gut it is far better. So it can be done, is what I'm saying. There is nothing wrong with saying, listen, I was raised in a single parent household and I turned out okay. It's like the calf is raised, whatever. Same thing with the
except
chicks.
For like 80% of all criminals are like from single parent.
So we have a mom hen that raises out chicks herself. They are better, more rounded, sound-minded chickens. The same thing with the piglets. All of these things can be done outside of the way that God intended. But why should I, in a discussion with somebody, have to lie and say it's not the best to have this just to admit that it can be done like this? And so what Salvini is saying is this is the ideal. There is the enigma and there are the things outside of it, and we can as a society and as families make the very best of those situations, but we should never say that it is equal because that's not factual.
So this is very interesting. The party announced that they would be implementing a 3% tax on money that migrants send overseas to help pay for new programs that would include free daycare options, tax breaks for families, and other incentives to have more families.
Wow.
I know, quite interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so speaking of immigration.
Reminds me of Russia.
Matteo Salvini, controlling immigration, the only antidote to racism. So you have seen a rise in racism. I've seen some of the articles, but what's happening is that people aren't always able to differentiate between the color of somebody's skin, right? And the actions that a group of people with a certain color of skin are doing to their country. Right. So you see these Africans coming up, with a different color skin, and they have been acting like wild, crazy banshees.
Right.
They have been setting things on fire. They go into the streets and set things on fire, and they rape and pillage, and then they're taking over entire like areas and creating like little no-go zones. Right? It's not the color of the skin that caused them to do that.
No.
Okay? So that's what he's saying. Listen, if we keep allowing these people to come in, they're actually making this racism happen. Right? But when immigration happens naturally, people integrate into society, you're like, oh, there's another person. They have another color of skin, but they're quiet and they're nice and they're normal and they're part of our society.
Right.
Right? They're not creating, you're not shutting down streets, praying on their knees, shutting down the streets so you can't walk or drive your car past it.
Right.
Right?
So what it's doing is it's creating this resentment amongst the Italians.
Exactly.
And you can't blame them for that resentment. And what is happening is they are then turning that resentment and just not even thinking clearly anymore and just blanket coding. And it is turning into racism.
So people who have been denied asylum, he wants to get them back to their countries of origin. And he says we need to work hard and do what others have not done in the past. The situation is that at present, we only have agreements with 4 countries, and only one of them actually works well in Tanzania, with whom there are 2 charter flights a week to send people back. And he says there are also absurd situations with countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, from which thousands of irregulars arrive, and yet they only allow repatriation to be scheduled on an individual basis, one by one. That is, we should put them on the scheduled flights one at a time, each with 2 police escorts. That's insane. So if you have to work, travel, talk with these countries, renew agreements, make new ones. He said he's already been to Libya. He's been to Egypt. He's now planning on going to Morocco, Tanzania, and Algeria, and working with these countries to take their citizens back.
Wow.
And he says there is an unprecedented hostility toward him from the Catholic establishment in Italy, notably the bishops. And I wanted you to hear this because I do believe it was an Italian priest who said, if I could, I would turn all of our churches into mosques.
I remember that. We've talked about that a few times.
What you have from Peter Hitchens saying, Christopher Hitchens, who was like, I guess, not really into religion very much, but he said, listen, you're going to hear your religious leaders telling you to bring in a whole nother ideology that is contrary to your religion.
Yeah.
And to take you over. If you're living side by side, that's one thing.
They do it well in Syria.
But to take you over is a total nother thing. And
or they did, I should say.
Right. He says, there is a fundamental underlying prejudice that he cannot explain. The beautiful thing is that over the cover of the Familia Christia and the attacks from another one, he says he received a flood of letters from men and women of the church who include their names, surnames, and addresses, encouraging him on what he is doing.
That's fantastic.
I have even gotten letters from priests and bishops. Although many begged him to maintain their confidentiality to avoid problems. This really surprised me. In politics, I'm used to it, but in a world of openness, dialogue, and sobriety, and its own way of being, I did not expect there to be such a climate. Regarding the threats posed by radical Islam, he said that beyond the fight against Islamic terrorism, the defense of our values and our identity requires regulation of the Islamic presence and the Islamic organizations in Italy. It's evident that the fanatical interpretation of the Quran is incompatible with our values and freedom and Christian values. As a father, I have personally encouraged school situations of mothers who are prevented from learning Italian or working, the girls who are prevented from doing gymnastics, or boys going to birthday parties with other boys. He says, here there is no intention to integrate, to dialogue.
Wow.
Unfortunately, a certain type of Islamic ghetto that's incompatible. So you see...
I would never imagine moving into another country and then trying to create an entire country within that country.
Right.
You could just stay where you are.
You want to be like them. You become like them.
Yeah.
If the xenophobics are these extremist Islamic people who are xenophobic, who are very afraid of.
And they don't want their kids to be integrated into society. Why isn't it reversed? Why doesn't anybody ever say to these Muslims that are the kind of
You're
extreme,
xenophobic
like,
of this.
I can't believe you won't let your kid around my kid, or
I can't believe you won't let your little boy come and play with my daughter.
Right.
I can't believe you wouldn't come to my daughter's, let your boy go to my daughter's birthday party.
Right. I can't believe you won't let your wife talk to my husband.
I can't believe you won't put your child in gymnastics or allow them to play sports.
That's a fear-based thing, and it's totally okay for them to have that.
Right. So here's some good news in Hungary, another bastion of sanity. Hungary's government is discontinuing programs in gender studies at state-run universities after determining the programs serve no identifiable purpose and are based on ideology rather than science. Wow, a university doing something based on science. Go figure.
Huh.
Way to go, Hungary. I don't really want to go too much into that because you kind of get the idea.
Right.
So while I've got you guys up, I did not have a chance to bring up all my Voice of Europe. If you're not on Twitter and you want to get some... I think Voice of Europe, I don't know if they're still on Facebook or not. I think they kept getting shut down on Facebook, which is weird about the censorship. Michelle and I were just talking about this yesterday. You never know what you're going to do and what's going to get you kicked off of what platform.
Right. I was already thinking, here we are. Oh, and not to change the subject, but I did have a thought earlier when you were saying how Salvini was surprised that these people wanted to retain their anonymity when they were letting him know that they supported him. That's not surprising to me, because we don't even have a huge influx of Muslims around us.
Right.
And yet I am constantly aware, not afraid at all, but I'm constantly aware that at any moment we could create a mass of enemies of Muslims that would come after us and harass us, and it could become a real issue because of the way that we speak out. So I totally get it. In Italy, if you're going to speak out about these things, they could come after you. So, okay, now carry on. Back to Twitter.
So... Speaking of this is Laura Loomer. This tweeted out by Voice of Europe. If you are on Twitter, follow Voice of Europe. That's where I get a lot of my European news. They are like, between them and Breitbart London is where I get, most of my European news.
And that's where you didn't get the Boris thing, and that's where we went off kilter.
Stop. I probably did get it from Voice of Europe. But here's the thing.
That's great.
Milo is not allowed on Twitter.
Milo Yiannopoulos.
But he is allowed on Facebook.
Okay, right.
Alex Jones has been banned from Facebook,
and
YouTube,
and
Spotify,
is allowed on Twitter.
But he's allowed on Twitter.
For now.
Laura Loomer just tweeted out that her Facebook page has been unpublished, but about yesterday she confronted 2 jihadi candidates for Congress, and she said she used her Facebook to publish the video that exposes Jew hatred, terrorism, and left-wing politicians. Twitter... has still allowed her on Twitter. So you just never know.
Anti-Semitism is always allowed. And yet when you go to question, and I don't see a bunch of like Jewish people bombing things all of the time. So it doesn't even make any sense. But anti-Semitism is an accepted form of hate speech and hatred.
Right.
And it has behind it, you've got the Muslims that hate Jews, that take action against them, that do actually harm them.
So this is a little meme here. Who wants Sharia? And they raise their hands. Who wants to live in Saudi Arabia? Nobody raised their hands. Who wants to live in Europe? Everybody raised their hands. I don't get
point.
It. Right?
Valid point.
I want to find one more story that I have to give, and it's really sad.
Before we finally get to Tommy.
Yeah. Before we finally get to Tommy. There's not much to report on the fact that, but Ezra has a video. I don't know if you want to try to find his video talking about Tommy Robinson calling him. But I think it would be on the Rebel. Tweeted it out. It would be on my tweets and my tweets. I think I tweeted it out.
The Rebel.
Yeah. So there's a woman, and I'm trying to remember whether it was, she was Belgian. Was she Belgian, guys? She committed suicide. Was she Belgian or Swedish? I'm sorry I don't have it up. But it's really, really, really sad. And she was gang raped for speaking out.
Wow.
And she made a video about how scared she is.
This is the only one that's on their top news.
Yeah, she made a video about how scared she is. And actually, I don't know if I posted it on my Facebook. You guys might be able to try.
They're saying Dutch.
Was she Dutch, guys? Was she Dutch?
Hilton and Abominable Snowman say yes.
Dutch politician.
Andrew Jackson says, in the 60s, we marched for our rights and the rights of others. Today, we march to remove our rights. What is wrong with these people? Well said. Well said. Muslims are feminist. Feminists invented the suicide belt in 1976. Edward Wallace.
Okay.
Nice.
Now, this is a little traumatic here. So, just...
Shock across the Dutch political spectrum as the suicide of a counselor in The Hague. Just before her death, Willy Dille claimed she'd been kidnapped and raped by a group of Muslims and accused a former party colleague of orchestrating it. More details from our Europe correspondent, Peter Oliver.
I have not seen
Peter,
this yet.
These are some pretty serious accusations. What more do we know?
Well, tributes and messages of condolence to the family of former Dutch Party for Freedom councilwoman Willy Dille have been flooding in from across the Dutch political divide. What we've seen is the 53-year-old former councilwoman for The Hague took her own life on Wednesday. That was after she posted online a video in which she claimed that back in 2017 she'd been the victim of a kidnap and rape at the order of a political opponent.
After, I'm going to try to read this. After what happened, I didn't tell anyone. The next day, I was debating as normal. The only thing that changed was that from that moment, I didn't feel safe anymore.
Well, later in the video, she claimed that she was attacked by what she calls a Muslim gang on the orders of a former political colleague who had since converted to Islam. The deceased claimed that a former Party for Freedom member had hated her intensely. That was her quote. The former colleague has since denied these claims via social media and vowed to pursue liable action in this case.
Well, she's
now,
dead. What are you going to do?
got a statement from the Dutch police in which they said that although they had spoken to Ms. Dille, though no formal complaint had been made, nor were there sufficient details given to warrant them starting an investigation of their own. Well, the mayor of The Hague, Pauline Krieke, expressed her sorrow at Ms. Dille's death, saying that her passing touched her very much and that the city had lost a very dear councilperson and a very committed politician. The Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, said that he was shocked by the death of Ms. Dille and expressed his sorrow towards her family and her party. The party leader of the Party for Freedom, Geert Wilders, said he was lost for words and that the world had lost a dear friend to him and also somebody who took, well, bringing politics towards the young very seriously, and that she was now sadly departed from this world.
Wow.
So what do you guys think something like this will do for the Netherlands? Because Geert Wilders, he is obviously to a lot of people very polarizing.
Yeah.
And he goes farther beyond what I would go in a lot of, criticisms of, the religion that shall not be named.
We've already said
but
it 800 times.
Do you think that something like this would wake people up?
No, you want to know why? Because as I was watching that, I was so excited that I'm hearing this message unfiltered. They're able to call out the facts, and they're calling it out on RT. It would change things if it were to get to people. If people could see it, and if people could be told the truth about this scenario, about what actually happened, and to listen to her words, then yes, it would. But the fact of the matter is that RT and channels like ours are going to be some of the only ones that are going to be talking about it.
Well, let's go ahead and watch her whole video here. You want to read it?
Hello, I'm Willy Dille. I'm a politician.
For the PBB.
I just want the world to know the truth. On March 15th, 2017, I was kidnapped, raped, and maltreated by a group of Muslims because they wanted me to keep quiet in the Hague City Council. After they were finished, they said, "Do you respect Mohammed? Do you respect Allah? Do you respect Arnold?" And then I knew who was behind it. Arnold van Doorn
was part of the city council
and has been fired by me as an employee, who hates me intensely, a terribly mean man. After it happened, I did not tell anyone. I just did my debates the next day. The only thing that changed from that moment on is that I never felt safe again. On the 23rd of October, it came to an eruption because through the mayor, a complaint had arrived that I no longer lived in my house. That was again through the Unity Party, so via Arnaud. The mayor has done an investigation while she actually knew who it was. So since then, they have let me down tremendously. Threats from all sides, and nobody does anything. Last week, it all got worse again. I was stopped by the Hague by two Moroccans in a car who said, "Will you soon cut your throat and let you bleed to death? Because you keep fighting against Islam. Because it is necessary, but people do not realize that." This afternoon it happened again while I was busy with other work. I was walking with a child, the same thing happened again. I'm just afraid that they will take my children, my guests. I cannot live with that. I want the fight against Islam to continue. It's something intrinsically bad. They do not like women at all. They do not like me at all. They believe that freedom of speech must be curtailed. Only when all of that has succeeded, they are happy. I cannot do that. I have to keep fighting. If I keep fighting as a politician, my family is in danger. If they kill me, that would not be too bad, but I cannot do this to my family. That's why I decided to stop it. But I want everyone to know that the police in the Netherlands are failing. That the mayor of The Hague has failed. I also want to apologize to my family.
It just does not work anymore.
I think we have become desensitized to what a rape or a gang rape does to the mind of anyone. And here we have a woman, strong, a politician, speaking out against Islam, reduced to...
She posted that video on August 6th and she died on August 8th.
To committing suicide. Suicide is not something that anybody of a rational mind does. Even if you are completely hopeless, your mind has to be broken in order for you to commit suicide. And they played physical and psychological warfare on this woman to accomplish
you can tell that she is very, very, what they very scared. She was very scared. She was very scared.
She thinks, or she thought, that the way to save her family was to commit suicide. They made her believe that. Mm-hmm. She said that the Netherlands police failed her. They didn't make her feel safe. They allowed this psychological warfare to continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
If you want to go ahead and just see if there's anything else here that I wanted to show you guys, because I didn't have all my Voice of Europe articles up.
I have the Ezra Levant video for me to
Why don't we go? Yeah, so Tommy has made a plea to Ezra, and if God lays it on your heart to give to his legal team, we know that their legal team is doing a good job because of what they did at the last
Let me read
hearing.
this email from Ezra to the supporters. Dear friend of Tommy Robinson, Tommy phoned me. He's supposed to be having a quiet vacation with his family, but he can't. He's had to go to the hospital twice because of the physical abuse he suffered in prison. They starved him. He lost 40 pounds in 2 months. He clearly has a form of post-traumatic stress, too, from being locked up in solitary confinement for so long and being constantly threatened with violence from Muslim prison gangs. You can see that just by watching the video of him when he was released. He's not quite himself yet. He will get better. Even just being out of prison and playing with his kids will help him heal. But Tommy told me the bad news. They want to send him back to prison 3 weeks from now, September 4th at Old Bailey. It's outrageous. Just last week, the Court of Appeal confirmed that Tommy was improperly tried, improperly convicted, improperly sentenced, and improperly imprisoned. That's why they set him free. It was a total vindication of everything Tommy has said. But now the UK government wants to do it all over again. And then we're going to play this video to explain. So
back to Italy. I did want you guys to give you some hope because optimism in Italy has risen 33 points since this new government. So they're getting happier. They're getting more positive. They have hope.
That's awesome.
I just spoke to Tommy Robinson. He called me and told me the news. They're trying to send him back to prison next month. Here are the details. You know, it was just last week Tommy won his stunning Court of Appeal victory. So many people were jubilant, and the elite media were furious. Justice was served. Tommy was vindicated. When he was let out of prison, I met with him and his family, and I had a hug and a handshake. We paid the last of his legal bills, and then we shut down our crowdfunding campaign. We were done. I came back to Canada. Tommy went away with his family for 2 weeks of quiet personal time to reconnect with them. Mission accomplished. That felt pretty good. Thank you for helping. But now Tommy called me. Why would he do that? He should be spending time with his family, not talking to me. Well, he had bad news. First, he tells me he's been unwell. You saw how he was abused in prison. They starved him. He lost 40 pounds of weight. They refused his request to let him even buy more food. They did not give him any medical care in prison. Since he's been out, he's been to the hospital twice already. He'll get better eventually, but they tortured him in prison, physically and psychologically. A man's not meant to be in solitary confinement, locked in a small cage 23.5 hours a day for 2 solid months, with Muslim prison gangs being allowed to come right up to his cell, shouting violent threats at him, literally pushing their own human excrement through his prison window, all the while he's living on just a can of tuna and a piece of fruit a day. Only 2 visits the entire time from his family. That's what the prison officials ordered be done to Tommy. That's not the worst of it. Tommy tells me that the UK government insists on proceeding against him in criminal court a second time. You thought they were done with him. They want to put him through another trial for the same thing, for his Facebook live stream that day back in May in Leeds, the one that he just spent 2 months in solitary confinement for, an improper and illegal sentence, according to the Court of Appeal. They want to do it to him all over again. They want to put him in prison again. I am sorry, but that will probably kill him. You saw him after 2 months in solitary confinement. Now imagine him after 13 months. They've already scheduled the next trial, September 4th at Old Bailey. That's the main criminal court in London. Tommy should never have served a day in prison. No British journalist has been imprisoned for contempt of court since the 1940s. They want him to serve even more time.
This is ridiculous.
Now they want to go at him again. I should tell you, and let me be very clear on this, the UK government does not have to do this. In fact, they've never sent a journalist to prison for contempt of court since the 40s. The leading contempt of court case in the United Kingdom, the leading legal precedent, a judgment written by Lord Justice Brian Levson himself, the head criminal judge in the UK. He says you don't have to do that. You don't even have to retry someone for contempt when it's thrown out for procedural reasons, as happened to Tommy. Let me tell you about this important legal precedent for 1 minute and look at the double standard as it's applied to Tommy Robinson. In this leading case, there was a lawyer named Ian Stewart West who was in outrageous conduct in court. There was in court arguing with the judge, insulting the judge, and then he refused to show up in court when the judge ordered him to do so. And he quarreled with the judge. He was abusive to the judge. And then, and I can't even believe this, this lawyer, Ian Stewart West, stood there in the court and demanded that the judge apologize to him. That judge later wrote, and I quote, "I thought your behavior was appalling in open court. I think leaving court when you were required here in the afternoon was monstrous." Appalling and monstrous. Later on, Judge Brian Levson of the Court of Appeal called it, and I quote, "willful and deliberate disobedience of an order of the court as an act of defiance which is serious misconduct," unquote. So what happened to this guy? He paid a fine of a few £100, but then he appealed, and the Court of Appeal quashed that verdict like they did for Tommy, saying it was procedurally flawed, like they said for Tommy. But they decided that Ian Stewart West didn't have to go back for a second hearing. He was done. No fine, no prison, he could go. Monstrous and appalling. But Tommy, who just improperly spent 2 months in solitary confinement, he has to go back to court again? And likely back to prison again? Tommy has lost 40 pounds from starvation in prison. He is unwell. He did not deliberately undermine the courts like Ian Stewart West did. He immediately offered to take down his Facebook live stream when asked. He cooperated. He didn't even know he was breaking the rules in the first place. He didn't shout back at the judge like Ian Stewart West did. Ian Stewart West was free to go, but Tommy Robinson has to go back to court.
This is ridiculous.
So Tommy called me and asked me to help him one more time. And I told him I would. He said he needs to pay for the lawyers again. I've talked to the lawyers, and so we've started up SaveTommy.com, the crowdfunding page again, because we have to pay for them to prepare for another hearing now. We have to pay to do this bloody thing all over again. Can you please go to SaveTommy.com to help? Please do. But why is this happening at all? Has Tommy not served enough time in prison for being a journalist? Last month, I met the new Attorney General of the United Kingdom, Geoffrey Cox. Did I tell you that? I met him the day he was sworn in court. I went right up to him and I shook his hand and I asked him about Tommy Robinson and Tommy's treatment in prison. Now, Cox said he had been too busy preparing for his new position of Attorney General to get caught up on the news about Tommy. Okay, fair enough. But he surely had a chance to get caught up by now. So we have a petition now. Please sign the petition at SaveTommy.com. It's to Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General, telling him to stop treating Tommy Robinson like a political prisoner in a banana republic. We will personally deliver this petition to the Attorney General's office in London, demanding that this abuse of Tommy Robinson be stopped, that this endless harassment be stopped. The Court of Appeal said that Tommy Robinson was wrongly convicted and wrongly sentenced. He should not be subjected to a second round of punishment for the same thing. The United Kingdom must stop its disgraceful treatment of a man who is clearly being treated as a political prisoner.
Exactly.
Who is being tortured while in Her Majesty's prisons. Go to SaveTommy.com. Tommy has asked for my help one more time, so I'll do it, and I need your help. He's not well. He's not yet fit. They wrecked him in prison.
We're good. All right. So I'm looking at the chat, and there's a lot of crazily awesome, really good comments going on that you guys are really talking about. Some people were saying, somebody said that she was out because using the word anti-Semitism is not a thing. Things start sounding LARPy. That's very interesting. Anti-Semitism is a thing. So what pointed out, you can criticize Israel and you can criticize Judaism and not be anti-Semitic, which is absolutely true. You can criticize any belief system. Remember, guys, I went to school to be a minister. I don't spend all my time, because I've already spent all my time criticizing the name it, claim it portion of religion. I also like what So What had to say about how he does not hate Christians, but that Christians are too, quote, forgiving. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we have home church too, is because the modern church is not real Christianity, and that's why you don't get it. That's why you don't understand it. Real Christianity is based on the principle that God brings justice. So when Jesus opened up the Bible, right, and he said, "This day, this prophecy is fulfilled. I've come to open blind eyes, right, to set the captives free." Yeah. He was quoting from Isaiah, which said, "I've come to bring the day of vengeance, and the acceptable year of our Lord." Right. So what you're not seeing preached in your Christian churches, probably especially in Germany, and I don't know what video you're talking about. You can maybe type in the link or whatever, something about a German video. I don't know if it's good.
It'll have to be sent to me in an email because they can't put links in the chat.
But yeah, if it's good and we need to share it, then we'll definitely share it. And I'm seeing some comments here, and I see some comments about paganism and tribalism and things like that.
It is important for us to note, I think in order for that petition to be valid, you need to be British in order to sign it. Mm-hmm. So I know that everybody around the world is going to want to sign that petition, but we really just need our UK viewers to go and sign that petition.
Right. So when we're talking about Christianity, you're not seeing it actually play out. But what you are seeing, you say, what you're seeing in Donald Trump is Christianity. What you're seeing in the Donald Trump supporters in America is Christianity. The people supporting Donald Trump are Christians who, for 100 years in this country, have been walked all over. It's the rise of Christianity that have led to the change of our country.
Yeah.
It's the rise of our belief in God, our belief that Jesus saves, our belief that Jesus wants to bring justice to the weak, to the abused, to the hurting.
And you know what's so great about this entire situation about that is it causes them to pull off their masks. So the women are wearing the burqas and hiding their faces. They have had to pull off. We always say when the devil comes at you with a pitchfork and horns, then you're fine. You're good to go because you can see him coming. It's when they come as an angel of light and there's a lot of confusion that it's hard to battle against.
Right.
And they are terrified and they've had to take their masks off.
The principles of Christianity are to fight evil, to fight darkness, to not just sit back and to let it happen. And I agree with you 100% that Christian churches today are not places where there's power and might. Okay?
Yeah.
And they are getting walked all over.
Oh, for sure.
But our founding fathers that created our great country, that created our Constitution, they were on their face before God.
Right.
They were allowing the power of God to flow through them. They read in the Bible, John Locke, right? William Blackstone. They looked at the general principles of God, allowing God to flow through them. The general principles of Christianity. Love your neighbor. Do good to those who despitefully use you. But Jesus also said, woe to those who cause a little one to sin. It's better that a millstone, it's a big, giant, heavy thing, be tied around their neck, that they be thrown into the bottom of the sea. So Jesus is all about punishing pedophiles, punishing people who steal, punishing people who come in and break into your country. Okay? Christianity set up laws and is supposed to have laws set up so that when people break those laws and they harm other people, they are punished for those laws.
And justice
These
is
are
served.
Christian principles that justice is served, but also justice with mercy. And we see that in the Forefathers Monument. When the Pilgrims came over, they had these principles that they're called the matrix of liberty. How do you have liberty? You have liberty when you have justice with some mercy, but you have law. So basically, you would not have an influx of migrants who are breaking the law. No, you're turned away. No, you go back. You're breaking the law.
Get in line.
And you go to God and you ask God, and you're led by love. So what those laws should be. You have nature and nature's God who tell you what your natural rights and what your liberty really is. So we promote the real Christianity on this channel.
Andrew Jackson says the 501c3 is the work of the devil. All churches using that tax code are deceived. I agree. I totally agree with that, because for those of you that are in the UK may not understand, the 501c3 is a tax exemption. Just means you don't have to pay sales tax, regular kind of tax like that. It's ridiculous, but it also limits your amount of what you can say politically to what percentage?
Like 5 or 6%.
Yeah, it's very, very small.
So Danny Delano says the only real out-of-bounds topic is to criticize Islam. So why is that? You need to ask that. You can criticize anything or anyone else. This must be the dark secret that they do not want sunlight on. You're absolutely right. Bert Bazzi says the UK is at a boiling point right now. And then Pat Hacker says this. Too many people make generalizations about Islam without realizing not all sects of Islam are the same. And so I do want to bring to you, this is an ex-Muslim prophet, apostate prophet, but he brings Islam in a rational way. Okay? So he says, and I'm gonna, if I don't say it right, forgive me. Sufism, Sufism, is the most peaceful form of Islam, but also the most un-Islamic one. Salafism is the most dangerous form of Islam, but it is the most Islamic one. Okay?
So, in order to be safe,
you have to be less
Islamic.
So today's regular peaceful Muslims are usually under the heavy influence of the Sufi Islam in their past, and Salafis are usually very disturbed about that and see it as a corruption of Islam. People usually don't look at factors like these and simply look at Muslims as moderate or radical. It would be very useful for everyone to question the background of a specific Muslim group and to understand further what makes them different from each other. It should also be noted that Saudi Arabia has been funding Salafism around the world for decades and has successfully established dozens of organizations and mosques that promote Salafism and conversion to Salafi Islam, the danger which cannot be overstated. And so when you have it's hard because nobody's wearing badges on the front. What is your belief? You know, right. You have Amish people, we know what they believe. Mormons, we know what they believe. Jehovah's Witnesses, we know what they believe. We know what Pentecostals believe. We know what Baptists believe. We know what Christian sects believe. We don't really know because people don't wear it on their sleeve, and we don't hear the Muslim peaceful preachers actually talking about, okay, like most Christians do, right?
When you meet a Christian, a lot of times if you're going to talk about Christianity, within 5 minutes, you know whether they are Baptist, Pentecostal, Episcopalian,
and
Methodist.
Therefore, you know their basic belief system.
And not only do you not have that conversation with Muslims, because I don't know that they even talk about it like that, but there isn't already a preconceived understanding of what each sect is.
So this is Joanna. She is this beautiful UK girl who I love to follow, and I follow her on YouTube. And she puts this out. Banned from Twitter are Tommy Robinson, Gavin McInnes, Milo, the Proud Boys, Sargon of Akkad. Allowed are Antifa, Richard Spencer, who's a hate speech guy, Black Lives Matter, and the West Borough Baptist Church. Twitter are in love with genuine extremists. Now, this is Yasmin Mohammed. Okay, she does this thing where she burns hijabs in solidarity for women who are forced to wear hijab. She's been on Jordan Peterson talking about how she was forced into in her marriage. She was forced into a marriage, and I love her because she says there's nothing. It's not about right and left. It's about right and wrong, and she. You've got the Gap kids here promoting and trivializing the wearing of the hijab among girls. When one begins to turn a blind eye to the veiled girls in the name of modesty, we end up turning a blind eyes to girls raped under the guise of marriage.
Well, and what really bothers me about this is the Western misconception of what the hijab represents, and how little girls are not supposed to wear them until they become what is essentially a sex object. Until you have reached, it used to be understood that when a girl could put her hair up, or when she could show her ankles or something like that, she was of an age to be pursued via courtship. When it comes to Islam, it's worse than that. The reason why the women wear the hijab is because they may cause lustful thoughts in men, and then those men may come and rape them. Do you understand the difference there? So when you see the Gap kids, that little girl is wearing the hijab, and so Gap is proud to be multicultural and putting that out there, when essentially they're saying that she looked about 11 or 12, that 11 or 12-year-old girl now is of an age where she can be sexually lusted after by men of her own kind that may come and rape her. That is exactly what they have said in their advertisement. It's very wrong, and Western people do not understand that. Muslims do.
So Yasmin says, how are feminists so confused? They come out in droves to support hijab and niqab like a bunch of mindless idiots. They're happy to support continued erasure of their sisters, continued misogyny and modesty culture, but only for brown women, of course. White women deserve better. I honestly wish I could trade you for all the strong, fearless, true feminists in Saudi Arabia and Iran and across the Muslim world. They are fighting with such courage and dying for their basic freedoms, not to cover their heads and to drive, and you betray them like this.
Exactly.
And she's talking about the burqa thing. Here, listen.
So I didn't have the heart to throw this one away. So I brought it today to show you what it looks like. So you wrap this around. This is part one. And then you get, of course, this red would never be acceptable. And then you take the second part, which is the niqab. So this is called a hijab that I'm wearing. And then this part here is called the niqab. They're called different things. Sometimes they're called a burka if you're from Afghanistan, or chador. So this is the second part here. And then if you're in the company of people that you trust, you can lift up Oh crap, I put on upside down. I'm out of practice. If I was in the company of women, or people like a doctor or something like that, then I could lift up the I part. But if I ever left the home, this had to be down, and this is how I lived. And then, if you can imagine, the rest of it is all black as well, with the socks and the gloves. It's not like I left home anyway, you know. I left home once a month for prenatal visits, because other than that, there's no reason for a woman to leave the house.
I wonder how she got out.
Even her voice
She's
should not
Canadian.
be heard by
She's in Canada.
strange men. Should be hidden away completely from men. Other than your husband, of course. So there are a lot of people these days that are calling the hijab and the niqab empowering. And so I'm just going to pass this around, and you can try it on. There you go. And just have it on for, you know, a few seconds or so, and see if you feel empowered. Because it definitely was not empowering for me.
Yeah, because it was definitely, as she walks away, it was definitely not empowering for me. And that is what this whole thing is all about.
So when we go back to, and we're talking about Tommy, and Tommy reporting on Muslim rape gangs, and Boris Johnson completely under fire because he's saying that they look like letterboxes, which is just trivial and kind of funny if you think about it.
Women in Copenhagen gather in defiance of the ban on wearing the niqab and the burka in Denmark. They're protesting a law which came in this month outlawing the full face cover. One woman has already been fined under the ban, which many Muslims say is an attack on their freedom.
So Tommy is in jail because he is calling out the injustices in the religion that shall not be named amongst the extreme, more extreme beliefs, the actual Islamic beliefs of Islam, right? And that's why he's going to jail. That's why he was just in jail. There is a push, and I don't understand why we can't just look at this factually. Anybody that is defending that is defending the oppression of women. Anybody that is coming out against it is coming out against the oppression of women. What is this? I think earlier Donna Terry said, are we in the dark ages again? I mean, this is absolutely absurd. Up is down and down is up. The sky is green and the grass is blue. That is what we are looking at in this scenario. I mean, it's absolute insanity. And anybody that is coming out in defense of this, these hijabs and niqab saying it's empowering is literally under the delusion of the king's new clothes. Hey, being naked is so great. Everybody's doing it. I mean, seriously, it takes a mental breakdown.
Here's the thing. I love what she says here, and we can kind of, sum things up with this. This discussion is not about challenging the clothing choices of individual women. It is about whether there is a moral imperative, or even at least a moral right, in a free, democratic, and secular country to challenge the normalization of the idea that women should not be seen.
Wow. That's really powerful.
Women should not be seen. That's what that's all about.
Right.
Women should not be seen. That's not sane.
And when we look at
Jesus, Jesus had women in his inner circle.
Yes, he did.
Okay? One woman who was caught in adultery was thrown at his feet, and they said, Jesus, we caught her in adultery. Let's stone her. And Jesus took a minute, and he wrote something in the sand, and we never know what he did. And he looked at everybody else, and he said, I'll tell you what. Everybody here, I want you to examine yourselves, and if you are without sin, you cast the first stone.
Right.
And they all went away. And you know what else she did? She knew spiritually, somehow God told her that Jesus was going to die on the cross. Mm-hmm. So she went and got the most expensive oils. It was an oil for embalming, I believe. And she took her long hair, and she poured the oil over his feet, and she anointed her feet, and she washed his feet with her hair. And the disciples, the men in the room were like, Jesus, that's expensive oil.
We could have sold that and fed the poor.
And he said, just stop for a second. She knows what she's doing. She's led by the Spirit.
He said, you don't even know what she's doing.
You don't even know what she's doing. This was a moment where Jesus was in touch with females, many females. They worked and they lived together on a equal standing, an equal basis. And the very first evangelists, who did Jesus show himself to first?
Mary.
Women. 2 women.
Yep.
Jesus appeared to 2 women first, who went to the men and said, Jesus is alive. I got to tell you, he's alive. And so that sets a precedence for Christianity. Now, through the ages, have men who tend to be a little bit abusive at times, especially when it comes to religion, have they twisted the scriptures?
Oh, absolutely.
To abuse?
Sure.
But that's not what Jesus would do.
Exactly. Always goes back to what would
All right,
Jesus do.
so we're gonna stop. We're done. We're done. I don't know if you have a song. If you want to sing a song, we've been singing songs with Grandma Marilyn.
Do not have a song, but I did find this email that I wanted to read the other day.
Okay.
It's from Alan. He says, hey, Resistance Chicks.
What was I going to
How
say?
y'all are? Happy anniversary, kind of, sort of. I think today is the anniversary of me going into the hospital for a couple of days with super high blood pressure and severely low potassium levels, probably due to binge drinking. The Mass Faith 3 Resistance Chicks anniversary of God leading me to your YouTube channel for my first video was probably a few days later with your Charlottesville video. I might have even caught that one live while I was at home recovering from my hospital stay.
Wow.
I don't remember, but I do remember God telling me that y'all are 2 smart women, fantastic role models, and that I need to watch y'all and learn a few things.
Well, praise
so
God.
That's what I have been doing this past year. Thank you so
Wow.
much. He says, oh my gosh, apparently Google doesn't really want people watching y'all. I searched Google for that video, and the Charlottesville one, and got a link to someone who retweeted it or something. But Bing had the link to YouTube as its #1 response.
That makes so much sense, because you guys know this is the anniversary of Charlottesville. We'll probably cover it tomorrow. I need to tell you guys a little bit more about what went down, because the false narrative being put out there is absolutely insane, and they're gonna. We got to go see Dinesh D'Souza's movie, because in it he has.
You
that
mean
clip.
we have got to?
We
they
still
need
have
to speak
got
English.
to. We still got to go, because he's got. He interviews Richard Spencer, who is not right wing.
No.
Who was supposedly funding the Unite the Right, or he was doing this Unite the Right thing. And a lot of people from the right came because they didn't get the memo that it was like some white supremacist dude, right? They didn't know that he was a progressive, that he was like super socialist, like commie on steroids who hates everyone but himself.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to get my guitar.
All right. I have another email to read anyway. This is from Marlene Allen, not related to the other Allen. Marlene says, YouTube cut off your live feed at least twice. This was on Friday. They showed commercials and flipped to an old video. We had to log back on twice. Dear Michelle and Leah, I love you and your family. Thank you so much for your shows. I send my sympathy. This was for us, for Grandma Marilyn. She says, I love our hero, Tommy Robinson. I still care about Sam Geroyd. Chicago is starting to awake. God bless America again and again. Wow, my husband Tom and I liked the very important film, Death of a Nation. That's the film that Leah was just talking about by Dinesh D'Souza that we are going to go and see just as soon as we get some free time. So, for those of you that missed it on Friday, our Grandma Marilyn passed away on Thursday. I think it was Thursday. I'm getting all my days confused here. No, it was Wednesday. She passed away on Wednesday in the evening. And it's been a very strange process to come to grips with that. The memorial service isn't until this coming Friday, which, by the way, we will not be going live this Friday because of that. But I will tell you something. I know where she is at, and so I am rejoicing that we used to minister to her, right? We used to teach her about God, and she now knows more about God than I could teach her in 1,000 lifetimes, which is absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you all for your sympathy. I've received so many messages from you guys. And I want to thank you for sending your love and your support and your encouragement to us. So speaking of which, I do have something that I want to show you on that topic here. Britt Baza, one of our moderators, is an engraver, an amazing engraver, by the way. I'm actually afraid to take the Resistance Chicks God's Little Acre crest off the wall to show you what he did for us. But I'm going to bring this picture up.
Oh, dear.
Where's Jasper's stuck? Jasper's been, pray for Jasper. She's getting old. She's going to be 14 this November, and she's got some issues. So let me switch over to this so you guys can see what Britt Baza did here. In loving memory of Grandma Marilyn, forever in our hearts. And he actually did it the British way. So her birthday is 9/8/35, but for our Americans that don't know, they switch the days there, so it is accurate. And she passed away on 8/8/2018. And in his message to me, he said, just finished this today and thought instead of getting you a shock when you open it, that I would send you an image of this so you know it's on its way. Thought it might be nice if you wanted to have a memorial at home for Grandma Marilyn, either a private garden for her or a plant or something. And I will tell you, she always wanted us to build a deck off of it's our,
oh my
our
gosh,
plan.
shit's gonna go on the deck.
So the deck that we're going to be building hopefully this fall, Kansas and I. So you may not see me as much, but no, you will. I'll make time for the show. That is exactly where that's going to go. We're going to find a spot on the deck because she always wanted to come, and she said, I want to sit on the deck and I want to be able to see the animals because she couldn't get around that well. So she actually never came and saw our animals. But we could have gotten her in the front door and to the deck. So the deck is going to be devoted to her. And so thank you, Barry, for that. It's absolutely beautiful. It's perfect. It's beyond perfect. And I will let you in on a little secret. After we talked about going forward to build the deck a couple of days ago, I was thinking to myself, we're going to have to get a plaque or something to dedicate this to her. And then lo and behold, here you have already done it. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you guys for all of your support. As far as channel business goes, YouTube had told me that they had fixed the error that we had. So whenever you watch one of our videos, there's a little thing. I could actually just pull this up and show you guys. That pops up. Let's go to one of our videos. Mass Faith 3. That tells you that we are going live, right? Now, technically right now, we are going live. Let me switch this over here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So technically we are going live right now. But like, let's say we play this video right here. You see this right here? Mass Faith 3 is live now. We are live and it should be taking you to, let me pause this.
Hey guys, welcome.
It should take you to our video that we are live with right now, right? It takes you right back to the Jordan Peterson video. Now, they fixed it, and I checked it the day that they fixed it, and it was fixed.
Now it's broken again.
And now the glitch is back again. So it should be taking you to this video right here where we are live right now, but it does not. So that has not yet been. Keep finding us, Leah.
I don't know how you guys find us with the internet trying to hide us. Just. If you're just joining us, sometimes we do some praise and worship because we are Christians. Sometimes the news is so crazy. You just need to like.
It's been a long time since we've done a song, and you guys keep asking for them. So today you got one.
Help me out. Help me out. You just keep playing. I'm trading my sorrows. I'm trading my shame.
persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy is gonna be my strength. Pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy is gonna be my strength. Yes, His joy is gonna be my strength. I'm trading my sorrows, and I'm trading my shame, and I'm laying them down with the joy of the Lord. I'm trading my sickness, and I'm trading my pain, and I'm laying them down with the joy of the Lord. And I say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Oh, I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy is gonna be my strength. Yes, His joy is gonna be my strength. And I say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. I say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Yay! Hot dog.
Hot dog.
All right, so we are going to sign off here at our 2-hour mark. Thank you guys for being with us. Thank you for sticking around for the song. We will see you guys back. I think we decided on Thursday instead of Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So instead of our Friday weekly roundup, we're going to do a Thursday weekly roundup because we will not be here on Friday. We're going to try to get ourselves on the Real.video platform. It's Mike Adams, the Health Rangers platform. He's from Natural News. We're hoping that YouTube goes the way of MySpace. I don't know if I can say that while I'm streaming on YouTube, but it's my channel and I can. And so we will see you guys there as well. So thank you to everyone that was here from Lionel Nation. Thank you for subscribing. It's been a fabulous, fun show today, even though kind of a weighty subject. So, remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. Like, comment, and subscribe to both of our channels, Mass Faith 3 here, where you are right now, or we might be streaming on Facebook, and on Resistance Chicks on YouTube. Thank you to our Facebook Live viewers who are here today as well. We can never forget them. And we will see you guys back here on Thursday at 6 p.m. We love you. God loves you. God bless. And have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. See you later, guys. God loves you.